Every day in the U.S., 320 people are shot. 111 people are shot and killed, and 12 children are dead from gun violence. Every day. I think as a nation, it's time for us to say we don't want to hear these numbers again. Any number of a lost life is worth changing legislation over. I think we have to decide not to be numb. You know, I always have this vision of us in our Western framework staring at our iPhones or our, or I should say our smartphones, staring down at our smartphones, and nothing else around us is important. Only what's coming up in who liked something on social media, or the message that we received, or the text message, or the music, or how I look in my picture, my photo. But meanwhile, somewhere in our nation, a child was shot and killed, and someone was shot while we're going just being numbed by all the things that's around us that keeps us preoccupied, that we don't see others, that we don't see our fellow human, our fellow citizens, our fellow human beings. It causes us to be, and it should cause us to be shocked to the point when trauma happens, or violence, that it causes us that there's an outcry on the streets. But what is it going to take for an outcry on the streets? The numbers itself alone, 111 people shot and killed. I think that's enough for us to say every day. I think that's enough for us to say we need to stop. We need to change legislation. And we need to figure out how to bring healing to our communities and to our cities in order for people to not turn to violence. We can choose how we would want to act in this time. And I like to present to all of us that we really use this time as we start to speak to Congress about changing laws to really think about all of the interrelated issues connected to gun violence in our nation, not just isolated to legislation. When we change legislation, I think that's a history that we have learned, or we should have learned as a nation. Legislation does not change how we respond as people to each other, as in a way of really learning our humanity. When we change laws, we're forced legally to provide access or space at the table. But it's our humanity that causes us, when we look at someone, to see them at the table. So we don't want to just force seats at the table. We need to look the person in the eye and say, I see you at the table. For those of you all don't, in the previous recordings I talked about the phrase that was from Africa. I'm not sure, I think it's Swahili, but it's in the Fifth Discipline Field Book. And it's basically the greeting that says, I see you, I bring you into existence. It's something that I live by in my life. It's a principle. Whenever I meet someone or talk to them, I bring them into existence. I acknowledge them. I let them know I see you as a human being. I ask them their name, regardless of who they are. And it's something that we all need to do as Americans, as humans. Bring other people into existence. I think it will help us that when we, although legally we may have forced people to have a seat at the table for everyone, but seeing a person would help us to understand them more, their perspective. Who are you as a person? What are you going through in life right now? They say, hello, how you doing? Oh, I'm fine, how are you? And then you just keep walking. And then they would say, hey, no, how are you doing? I'm fine. And the third time, how are you doing? It's kind of, it's been a little bit of a tough day. And the reason why I did that for myself is I felt most people don't really want to know how people are doing. They just sort of ask, how you doing? And hey, how are you? Fine. But if they said, hey, how are you? And they say, I'm not doing well. Well, I'm not fine. Usually, many of us are sort of thrown off, and sends us in a loop. But I think it's time for all of us to start answering honestly. How are we doing? But I think it's time for all of us to start asking ourselves that question as a nation. How are we doing? How are we doing that we can say that it's fine for us to actually say from our mouths that 320 people have been shot, that 111 people have been shot and killed? What is it? Why is it okay for us to actually say it? And to give the statistics, and to feel that we're knowledgeable about something, when we don't have to present them that way. When we can present, we can speak of the numbers, but speak to the numbers of a violence in a way that in a manner of which we know that it will end. And we'll work with our legislators, and we'll work as citizens in order for us to never be in a place where we have to watch online or on news feeds, on our news clips of children or families and mothers sobbing, weeping because they lost someone who's 4 years old or 5 or 6. And to something that's senseless. It could have been averted. But we allowed, based on our inability to put laws in place to protect our children. And I think the statistic that I shared about violence, about as far as road rage for Americans, and this is my personal opinion, I don't think the answer to violence is another gun. I think the answer to violence is to ensure that other people do not have access, people who are mentally unstable or have a history of violence, not having access, ensuring that laws are strict so that they do not have access in order to harm citizens or their families or innocent people or anyone. And no one should have the right to judge or to say that someone is not innocent, to say that they should that they are subject to a person's punishment. None of us have a right to deem ourselves God or a judge to say we can take someone else's life because of how we felt that they lived or they didn't live as an ideal citizen. Michael Brown was a criminal, is what someone said. I said, oh, I guess our laws have changed, right? It's supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. We've made the people guilty to justify brutality or violence. So what is happening to us, America? What's going on, America, as Marvin Gaye would say? Whatever is going on, it's something that's in us that's allowing us to. And I'm here at 3:25 in the morning speaking from Boston. I'm in D.C., and I love D.C. It's the power base of our nation. It's fascinating. I was smiling when I got off the train because when I walked out of Union Station, it let me out on Massachusetts Avenue. And I was like, that's perfect for what I'm doing now. Massachusetts Avenue led me right here to Washington, D.C. And it led me here in order for me to be in agreement with others who are speaking out. There are people in Congress and there are others, but more importantly, the people are speaking out and saying it's time for us to change the laws. It's time for us to really speak to our ideals and make them real for everyone. Not that it's a dream or a nightmare for others. Because for some people, America has become a nightmare because of injustice. But it's time for us as Americans to say, I see you. I see you. I see you in an urban context. I see you in a rural context. I see you in the South, on the West Coast, on the Northeast, in the Midwest, in Heartland America. I see you. I see who you are. I want to get to know you. I reckon be able to speak to you about lives, innocent lives taken because of something that could have been done to avert the violence of children or families or women or people who are innocent, who are at worship or shopping, and they're just going about their lives. You're listening to me because you're still alive. They're not. And their families know it because there's a void there. So I'm here because my heart is broken as well. It is broken, and I'm tired of reading about it. I'm tired of reading about, and that's why I said I'll do this. I'll come here and speak. Because of a broken heart, and I'm tired of reading about children and innocent bloodshed and senseless deaths when all we have to do is act as citizens and as legislators. So let's have another moment of silence for those who are not with us, and also their families, because of our inability to act, to change legislation. God bless America.